Hello and welcome to All About Cars, and this week we're going to talk about the all-new Hyundai i20. It's just been launched. We're going to talk about its pricing, whether it makes sense or not, and should you consider this car. We will also talk about the Nissan Magnite. It promises to be the most affordable sub-4-meter SUV in its class. So does that mean you should consider it, avoid it, do what with it when it's launched? So we're going to talk about that. And of course, we'll take your questions. So first, let's talk about the new Hyundai i20. So the new i20 is more expensive than the car it replaces, the Elite i20, and essential reason for that, of course, is that it's a brand new platform. It's a larger car than the car it replaces, and of course there's a lot more equipment on board. Now you've got three engine options to choose from. There's the older 1.2 Kappa naturally aspirated engine, then you've got the 1-liter turbo, the same engine that we've seen on the Verna, that we've seen on the Venue, and of course there's the 1.5 diesel, again something that we've seen on the Venue, on the Creta, and now it's on this car as well. So the 1.2 can be had with a CVT or a manual gearbox. The turbo can be had with an IMT and a DSG or a dual clutch gearbox, and the diesel is only available as a manual. So there are the options, lots of options. You've got a wide range of pricing that's there, so lots of points of accessibility in that sense. Is it good pricing? I think it's the pricing isn't great. It's all right. Yes, it is more expensive than the current car because you get more, but it's not something that is something that we'd want to shout from a rooftop, for instance. It's all right. We would have liked the pricing to be a little less, of course, given the market situation, getting more people to buy the car. That's not happened. And towards the top, I think the pricing is a little too steep as well, especially when you look at the maybe the top spec diesel and the top spec turbo petrol. So that's where it stands. Now in terms of design, it's a nice looking car up front, especially at the back. The design is debatable. Some people like it, some don't, but it's a sportier looking car overall. It's a larger looking car. Even on the inside, it's modern than what the Elite i20 is, but when it comes to the look and feel of plastic and quality, I think they are at par. We would have thought that there'd be a significant jump over the existing car, especially since Hyundai said that they've done a lot of changes in quality control and various manufacturing processes that they're doing in the plant, the way they go about stamping and making things. So we thought that there would be a telling difference between the Elite i20 and the new one, but that's not there. I personally haven't seen the car on the inside, but this is the feedback that I have received from my colleagues who went and shot the car. The good news is I'm going to drive this car this week, and I'll have let's say a quick drive report on how it feels for you next week when we come back on the same show. So do come back for that, tune for that. And to understand where it stands in terms of pricing, we'll just run a nice elaborate pricing chart for you. Look at that, and then you can judge for yourself whether it's an expensive proposition, it's all right, or it should have been cheaper. Just a note that these prices, Hyundai say, are introductory. So then again, which again makes the pricing to me seems a little more than it needed to be. i20 is cheaper than the Venue, which is the logical thing to do because hatchbacks are not as popular as SUVs. But as a car to buy, maybe the i20 might be a better option, especially because it might be roomier. But of course, we'll tell you more about that next week after we've driven the car. And now let's move on to the Nissan Magnite. So the production for the Nissan Magnite is already underway, which means booking for the car should open soon, and depending on how the booking goes, we should see the price reveal or the launch of the car soon as well. Now, the big news for the Magnite, of course, is that it is Nissan's make or break car, and I think that will reflect in the car's pricing. We expect the car to start at about a little under 6 lakh rupees ex-showroom for the base XL, and then it'll probably go up to about 7.5x showroom for the top spec. So good pricing in that sense, because you still have a large car in the sub 4 meter segment. It's not really a tiny car, but the pricing is lower than anything else that is out there. And that should give Nissan Magnite clear advantage, especially in this situation where people are trying to save some amount of cash that they can, or save some money. So this makes sense, and it's a good looking car. We've seen that it's well equipped, it's got lots of connectivity options, so quite a few firsts as well. So makes sense, and I think that's a great approach from Nissan to price it lower than what existing cars are or SUVs are at. Now, in terms of drivetrain options, you will have the 1 liter naturally aspirated engine, and you will have a turbocharged version as well. The base price is, of course, for the naturally aspirated version. Now, this is the same platform as the Triber, the Renault Triber, and Nissan Magnite will go up against the Renault's new SUV that will come out. And again, same platform, but we will see both the Renault's SUV and the Nissan Magnite sit a little above the Triber, which again makes sense because there is more aspirational value to the Magnite compared to the Triber. The Triber, a great car, but again, I think it's more utilitarian in that sense, and Magnite is something that is something that's more emotional, that'll appeal more to your heart. So makes sense that it's slightly pricier, but lovely pricing, and I think if it comes to that, and indications are that it will. So that's something that you should look out for. And between the naturally aspirated and the turbocharged version is the one to go for. Clearly should be, given because it's an SUV, you'd want that mid-range torque to come in after the turbo kicks in. So, but 7.5 for the top spec with all the options that we've seen so far. And you could just look up CarWale stories to see where we are in terms of all the features. Everything has been revealed already. So lots of stuff in there. For 7.5 lakhs ex-showroom, I think it'll be fantastic pricing if Nissan can get there. And now let's take some questions, and we will start with what we have on Facebook. We've got Abhi, and he wants to know which one to buy, the Sonet or the Venue. He wants safety, security, comfort, and convenience. So in that sense, these cars are very, very close. I would say the Sonet is the newer one. So if you compare the two side by side, the Sonet seems a little more expensive in the way it looks on the outside and inside. You have different drivetrain options for the Sonet and the Venue, so you can choose between that. But between the two, I think the Sonet makes more sense now. Plainly because it's newer, and Kia has made that effort to differentiate between the two. So yeah. Zaika has asked us whether the Tata Harrier Dark is a better option, or the Hyundai Creta SXO diesel. And there are various things that have been asked about in terms of comfort, features, etc. So the clear answer here is the Creta, and I can say that because I personally have also spent a lot of time with the car. It is comfortable, it's quiet, the diesel, it's refined, it's efficient, and the only real drawback to the car to an extent is the boot, which is not as big as it should be. But in terms of occupant space and size of seat and features, etc., especially since you're looking at the SXO, it's completely loaded, and that's the car that I would recommend, Creta over the Harrier in the specs that you've chosen. Srivastava, again on Facebook, wants to buy a good automatic or semi-automatic car for 8 to 10 lakhs. And if not an automatic, a manual with a very light clutch, and he's asked us which car should he go for. So there are a lot of options in this class to go for, and now you've got the new i20, and you can opt for the IMT, and I'm considering these are ex-showroom prices because on-road, of course, things might be a little more expensive, but that's an option. There are you can look at the Baleno, you can look at the Swift AMT, so lots of options that you can go for. And you haven't said that whether you want, whether you're single or you want it for a family. The only thing that you've said is that you prefer an SUV. So a light clutch SUV would be, let's say you can look at the Sonet, you can look at the Venue, you can even look at the Brezza. These are all SUVs with light clutch. The Venue and the Sonet are newer, the Brezza is older, and you have more higher quality, better specs with the Sonet and Venue. And between the Sonet and Venue, we prefer the Sonet because it's the newer of the two. Now Rajan has asked us regarding the new i20, which we just spoke about a little earlier in the video, and he wants to know whether it will come with a 1-liter turbo petrol with a manual gearbox. So 1-liter turbo is certainly there, but it only comes with an IMT and a DCT, so no manual if you want the 1-liter turbo. And now let's take some questions off Instagram. And first up, we've got Amrut Raj, and Amrut Raj wants to know, is it a good time to buy a diesel car? And if it is, then whether it should go for the XUV300 or the EcoSport for a family of 3. So now you haven't mentioned whether, what sort of driving you do every month, but if you're doing anything over 2,500, yes, diesel is still worth going for. There are norms, there are rulings in place that might seem that they're against diesel, but not for new diesel cars. And you can, if you buy one now, you can of course own it for the next 15 years and you shouldn't have a problem. It's not like it's going to stop, that you will not be allowed in cities going forward, nothing of that sort. So yeah, if your running is high, sure, go for the diesel. And between the XUV300 and the Ford EcoSport, we'd say the Ford EcoSport is a better option. It's easier on your pocket and it's a nicer design inside and out. So that's the car that we'd recommend between the two. Next up, we've got Zishan, and he wants to know whether he should go for the Jeep Compass or the Tata Harrier. Essentially, he's looking at a car that will be used over poor roads. So both the Compass and the Harrier are good when it comes to ride quality. They're both sturdy cars. I think the Harrier is the better option because it's more bang for your buck in that sense. It has a little more space, and the new version is better in many ways compared to the first Harrier that came out. So we'd say the Harrier, go for the Harrier, save some money, makes more sense. We've got Gaurav next, and he says that he has an Audi A3 and he loves it, but he now needs a secondary car for office commute given parking issues. So he wants to know whether you should go for a Polo GT TSI. So clearly your parking space might be really tiny because the A3 is already a pretty compact car, but yeah, sure, go for the Polo. I mean, it's in the same family. You'd probably see some parts sharing also, so you'll feel right at home. And Polo GT is it's a wonderful car. It's a little old in the tooth now, but a nice car nonetheless. So if you like the Polo, go for it. And now let's take some questions off YouTube. We've got Vishal, and Vishal wants to know which is better and what he should go for, the Seltos or the Jeep Compass. He's not looking for a car to go off-roading in. He just wants to use it in the city and the highway. And he's going to drive it for about 2,000 kilometers a month. So makes sense to go for a petrol. And between the Seltos and the Compass, the Seltos' petrol engine is a nicer one. Plus the Seltos is a lighter car. It's a less expensive car compared to the Compass. So Seltos is what we'd recommend. Next up, we've got Dhiren, and Dhiren wants to buy a hatchback for under 8 lakhs. He likes the Altroz, but he's not sure about the ownership experience, and he says whether he should go for the Altroz or the Baleno. And he's looking for good service support, he's looking for low maintenance cost, and he's looking for good after sales. So now with Tata Motors having shut the Concord range of dealerships, there are areas where there are no Tata dealerships. So first thing that you need to see is whether there is a Tata dealership in close proximity to where you are. And if there is, then I think you should definitely consider the Altroz. Now, traditionally, Maruti's after sales is been better than Tata's because they've been at it for longer in terms of trying to improve things, customer satisfaction. They have more experience on that front. But again, at the end, it boils down to what sort of dealership you have. So some Tata dealers are really good, some Maruti dealers not so much, but probability clearly is that the Maruti experience or service experience will be better for you. Now, between the Altroz and the Baleno, the Altroz has its pluses when it comes to safety, when it comes to space, when it comes to design, all of that the Altroz scores more than the Baleno. The Baleno is lighter, peppier, more efficient, so that's the thing. That's the differentiation between the products. So I hope that helps clear your doubts about which car you should go for. Now, Nitesh wants to know whether should go for the Kia Sonet HTK Plus or the Skoda Rapid Plus manual. And honestly, I'd take the Sonet because it's a newer car. The Rapid is old in tooth. You can see it in terms of exterior design, even when you step inside. Quality levels are good, but the design is now pretty old and not as exciting. So if I were to pick, I'd pick the Sonet. Now, Faisal has asked us about the long-term engine reliability between the Polos and the Jazz. Well, there's I think they're equally good. We've never really had or heard a problem. We've used both cars extensively and there is no issue on that front. He further asks whether CVT is a good option or a torque converter, especially for city and highway use. So between the two, I personally prefer the CVT. I think it's the better technology. The only thing with the CVT is that you need to be very, very mindful about how to use it. If you're not careful about it, it can give you very poor fuel economy, and the whole drive experience also maybe is not as good. But if you use it well, then it's quick, it's efficient, it's seamless, it's quiet. So lots of advantages to CVT, but that's what I would prefer. Torque converter is a more like a universal thing. So whether you know a lot about driving automatics or don't know a lot about driving automatics, if you care or don't care, it doesn't matter. It'll do the job more or less in a similar fashion. So yeah. Now, Vishal wants to know, he drives for 1,000 kilometers and whether he should go for the Sonet IMT or the diesel manual. So, and it's essentially says intercity driving. Now, I don't know if you meant within the city, because intercity means across cities. So if it's across cities, even then, since it's only 1,000 kilometers a month, go for the IMT, go for the petrol, makes more sense than the diesel. Now, Vijay Prabhu wants to know what he should go for when it comes to compact SUVs, and he's given two options. He says either the Nexon or the Sonet, and he wants an AMT petrol. So if you want an AMT, then you only have two options. You've got you've only got the Nexon, so you can go for the Nexon. That's pretty clear. And he also asked that if you were to go for a compact sedan, so the likes of the Tigor, the Amaze and the Aspire, which one should you go for? So we'd say the Amaze is a good option to go for in this class. It's spacious, it's got a CVT, it's nice to drive. So yeah, hope that answers your question. Now, Keshav wants to know what car should he go for, and his budget is 15 lakhs max. He wants a good rear seat drive experience, lots of boot space, premium features, and he wants to decide between the Seltos and the Creta. Now, between these two cars, we always end up recommending the Creta because it's just a nicer car to live with. It's more comfortable and it's quieter overall. It's just a nicer ownership experience in that sense of driving it every day. So that's what we'd recommend. Next, we've got Abdul, and Abdul wants to know when will the next generation Honda Accord and Hyundai Sonata be launched? When will they reach the Indian market? Should he wait for them or should he just pick the Superb? So go for the Superb. There is no news about the Accord and the new Sonata coming to India. These cars have not really sold very well in the past, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense for Honda and Hyundai to bring these cars. So, and Superb is a great car, so absolutely go for the Superb. Farooq says he's got a very, very tight budget, 5.5 to 6 lakhs, and his personal choice is the Maruti Suzuki Ignis, but he's also interested in the Tata HBX, the mini SUV that will sit under the Tata Nexon. was shown at the Auto Expo, and he says, should he wait for the HPX or simply go for the Ignis? So the only reason to wait for the HPX would be because you were, you're absolutely in love with the styling that they showcased. But otherwise, if it's not just the styling, then Ignis is a nice car. You should absolutely go for it. There's no point waiting for the HPX. Rohit wants to know what is the future of diesel. He lives in Lucknow and he's planning to buy the Sonet HDK Plus diesel, and he wants to know how's the performance. So diesels are here to stay. There have been rulings against it in the past, severe rulings, but now we've got all BS6 versions, and we don't see something really negative happening to them or around them. So it's pretty safe to go settle for a diesel. Do that. The 1.5 on the Sonet is a nice, punchy, refined, torquey diesel, so efficient too. So yeah, no issues there. Absolutely, go for that. Mohit wants to know which is the best fun to drive diesel car under 10 lakh rupees. He was thinking about the Ford Figo. Should he go for that? Well, yes, you should absolutely go for the Ford Figo. The 1.5, the Figo is an involving car to drive, good steering, nice ride, decent handling. So yeah, you should absolutely go for that. Harish has asked us whether between turbocharged and naturally aspirated engine, which is more reliable. So in terms of reliability in today's day and age, I don't think there's any question there. But if we were to lay it out in theory, then we'd say that you've got additional moving parts in turbocharged engines. So when there are additional moving parts, there are chances of more things going wrong in that sense, probability wise. But I think the way engineering, production, etc. is at the moment, both engines are pretty reliable. So no worries there. And that's a wrap on All About Cars. Thank you so much for writing in lots of questions, and do let us know what you thought about the i20 and also about the Nissan Magnite and its pricing. Do you agree with us? And if it were priced around that much, would you go for it? So do comment and do let us know. Thank you so much for watching.